would be cool to maybe talk about.
Okay, we're recording.
Like not quitting and not giving up on like anything when life gets hard.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Does that make sense?
Ladies and gentlemen, it makes total sense. Welcome to the Sean and Sax Show. Welcome to the first episode in our new studio.
Ta-da!
Babe, you did a bang up job. We're in the new warehouse, the new studio, as you can see. We're down one camera today, but you guys who are listening can't see.
You don't get the up
But we have the new studio. Sax, this is Sax's work. This is how she rolls.
I laid all this brick
by
myself.
Let's tell everybody about the brick. Sax, we have a very intimate relationship with our prime delivery man.
No, this is from Amazon.
And by we, I mean my wife.
Okay, so
she orders so much shit online.
No, that didn't come from Amazon, but I do order a lot from Amazon.
You do. And okay, go ahead. Tell the story of the brick.
So I love renovations. I love flipping houses. I love design. And I don't flip houses anymore, so I just get to design our podcast set. Mm-hmm. Well, I wanted to make this one a little more grown up or a little more man cave-ish, cigar lounge feeling. I don't know. It kind of went that way. But back to the brick. So I ordered this wallpaper. I didn't really lay the brick from Wayfair. And they first sent me a roll of red brick and a roll of brown brick. And I was like, that's not going to work because wallpaper kind of needs to match, right? So I had them exchange it. Well, I got another brown one, and then I had them exchange it again. I got another brown one. And then I was like, what if I just buy 8 rolls? And one of them's got to be red. I only needed 2 rolls, guys. So I ordered 8 rolls, and all of them were brown. I messaged into the customer.
The normal person would say, you know what? Hey, let's just shift this to browns because we have 8 rolls of it now. But not my wife. She was determined. Carry on. So
I messaged into the Wayfair people, and the lady who was helping me, she's like, they're obviously brown. I don't know who's working in this warehouse, but details people. I'm like, amen, sister, amen. So finally I got the second roll of red. And currently I have about 10 rolls of brown in the back of my trunk that I need to go and send back to Wayfair, which will hopefully happen because I'm not the best at returning online shopping.
Just to point out, we have a number of boxes that are inside our house that are from last Christmas. We're coming up to Christmas now as we share this episode. It's almost December. We have boxes of returns still sitting in our house from last Christmas. There are boxes.
I don't think that it's...
I'd like to issue a public challenge to you to return those rolls.
So my friend Amanda, she's great. She's like, you can employ me to do your online returns. I'll just take 10%. It would be a
full-time freaking job.
10%.
It would be a full-time job. So anyways, we're in the new set and we're really excited about the podcast. And if anybody needs any rolls of brown brick wallpaper, just go ahead and shoot Saxon.
Hit me up the next 6 months before I return them.
Shoot her in the DMs and she'll get them right over to you because there's a high probability, which is basically 100%, that they're not going to get returned.
They will. So, they will.
Anyways, Sax wanted to talk about adversity today. Yes?
Yes.
Adversity. What do you want to talk about with adversity, babe?
Don't be a quitter.
Don't be a quitter. So we've been chatting a bunch about trials, and we had our good friend Jeff Watson stop by the warehouse today. Nice. And Jeff's an OG, and I've known Jeff for years, and we talked about adversity and growth and scaling and ideas, and Jeff's an old soul, and he's just a good dude. I like Jeff. Jeff and I go way back, and we were talking a lot about like, what does this entire existence mean? Like, what are we doing here, right? We have so many rules and things and ways of doing it and metrics of success and failure and up and down and all this other stuff. But it's like what does it really all mean? And that might sound super generic and super elementary to people. People are like, that's like some hippy dippy shit, whatever, but really, truly, like, what does it all mean? Like when you look at adversity, right? We this year was a very difficult year. We made a ton of changes in the businesses. Why are you looking at me like that?
You're just so cute.
I know. Thank you. Anyways, you just throw me off track because I think you want to get naked, and it's just, I don't really know. You know,
we're just really mesmerized by that brick wall behind your head.
Yeah, it's red. Anyways, we've had a challenging year. We've had some really interesting business experiences and some interesting experiences with, you know, employees and friends and circles and things. And, you know, it's interesting because we've talked a lot about this on an internal level, and meaning, you know, does it mean we're fucking up? Does it mean we're not doing it right? And I take things very personally.
Yeah,
I take things on myself, and I look at myself because I take ownership. Like, what's my part in all of this? What's my role in all of this? Like, what did I do? What did I not do? What did I say? What did I not say? You know, and I think that there's a time and a place for that. And I also think, sorry, Greg's here, and he's like, I think he needs to get in. So, yep, somebody's letting him in. Anyways, you know, the real conversation is around it, like really understanding what adversity is. And again, it might sound really generic and it might sound very elementary, but to me, it's a fascinating conversation to look at what adversity really is.
Right.
You know, because I look at this year and we say that it's difficult or it's this or it's this or it's whatever. But the truth of the matter is I've learned so much this year that I've learned lessons, and I've learned things that I didn't know last year.
Yeah.
I've become a different man, a better man, a more, you know, broadened man this year, significantly more than last year.
Right.
And so I think that this thought of adversity, you know, we look at it and we label it as bad, we label it as wrong, we label it as these things. You know, I've gone through our own quote unquote adversity, but we're so much better now than we were.
Sure.
Stronger than we were.
Well, I was just thinking about, like, when you were naming off some things, like if you look at core 4, which is what Sean coaches around, the 4 core, the pillars, right? Which is power, passion, purpose, and production. In every area of our life, we've been challenged with adversity. And it's like, okay, you know, we've had medical things, big medical things happen this year. Our marriages, we've had to really work through some big things.
We've both had big surgeries and
yeah, and you know, you take an interesting thing too is you take enough hits to you not being able to trust people or things like that coming up, and then you start to not trust yourself because you're like, where did I not see it? Where did I go wrong? And you boil all that down, and it's like, God, you think about it, you're like, what am I doing right? You start questioning stuff. What am I doing wrong? But the beautiful thing is, and I'm a true believer in this, is that why would we choose to have a human experience if it wasn't to learn and grow?
Right.
And we don't learn and grow through being comfortable. And I mean, I love being comfortable. I love being
a warm,
joyful.
snuggly bed.
I love comfortable.
Yeah.
Like I don't seek discomfort, honestly.
Right.
But I know that that's going to get stale and boring, and that's not the purpose of why I chose to come on this planet, I believe. And so changing that mindset, even in the hardest of moments, it's like, like, what is this teaching me, and where can I be grateful? And it's like training those muscles of gratitude and perspective. And it's hard. It's hard because it's like, it's so easy. We was talking about with Jeff earlier. It's like, it's so easy to be angry with angry people.
Right.
Oh, like, misery loves company, right? It's so easy to stay in that. But the real gangster thing is when all that's happening, it's like, well, wait, like, where's my life benefited from this happening?
Right. And you never see it in the moment. You're always like, man, I wish this was different, or this would be so much easier, or this would be so much better.
What's that reptilian brain? It's just like,
but the truth is, like, we get so wrapped up in these quotes and these things and these, motivation and adversary. And Sax is just the queen of memes. She's always sending me these fucking memes.
Little motivational memes.
Yeah, but I think when you break it down, what I really feel passionate about, like, with this conversation is, like, you don't intentionally want to go into a place of adversity, but at the same time, you kind of have to. Like, you have to. You won't grow. You know, you say that you don't put yourself in uncomfortable situations, but yet you do when you go to the gym.
I know I do. I just
every single time I go to the gym, you do.
Yep.
Whenever I go to the gym, I do. Whenever we do these podcasts, we do. We get vulnerable. We talk about, you know, vulnerable things and where we are, and it's like, who are we to pick up a microphone and talk, and what about this and the business, and who are we to do this and who are we to do that?
Even like in a relationship, you know how hard it is for a lot of people to speak their truth and stand in their truth, risking like either hurting their partner, risking the quote unquote safety of their relationship. Maybe they're jeopardizing that. There's all this stuff. Or also risking like, hey, maybe I'm going to listen to my partner and gosh, then I have to like look at myself, and maybe that I need to see where I'm not showing up. Like there is a lot of uncomfortable.
I think the biggest thing that I've taken away from, you know, this year, and when you're talking about adversity, is really understanding that it's like, we could say all the quotes about God's not going to give you what you can't handle and all this other stuff. And I'm sure you
makes you stronger.
Yeah, I'm sure you have a meme for that, right? But it's like the real truth is in looking back at this year and looking back at all adversity, it's always made me stronger.
Always.
It's always made me better. And I think the older I get, one of the things that I've noticed, and tell me if I'm wrong here, I get it fired up, right? I get very energetically involved in things. We can call that whatever we want, psychopath, crazy, whatever. But I think that I've cursed the adversity less this year than I probably ever have in my life. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Meaning I haven't like cursed it like, damn, why is this happening? Fuck this shit. I don't want it anymore. Get rid of it kind of a thing. Like I've stood in it probably more this year than I ever have before in life. And I mean, I've been through divorce, been through, you know, depression, all kinds of other stuff. And I feel like maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's not a great thing. I'm not really sure, but I feel more accustomed, more at peace with knowing that this is going to teach me something. And the one thing that I will say that I know that you and I have talked about this is like, I know without a shadow of a doubt now, where before it's like you get wrapped up in shit and it seems like it's never going to end. I always, like now I'm in a place where I have found myself chuckling at times at the quote unquote adversity. Go into a warehouse and it's just chaos and you're moving and things and where's this and where's that and we need this and we need that and we're losing money or this that, and the other. I found myself more this year chuckling, kind of going, this is fucking hilarious. You know what I mean? Where before I might have like thrown something through a wall or, you know. Do
you think that that's just because you have more years of wisdom?
I don't know. Why do you think it is?
I think it's that you have, I think that when you've learned that you can survive something that's hard, it's like making it through having a baby or getting your appendix out. It's like, oh, that was horrible, but I survived. Oh, like I can do hard things actually. Like, or, you know, going through a heartbreak, like, you know, remember your first heartbreak? I do. It was agonizing. It was the worst thing ever. But then you're like, oh, then you find love again. And then it's like, oh, and then maybe you get your heart broken again and you realize you're like, oh, this is part of where I get to learn to, maybe I'm breaking my own heart. Or, you know, and you learn to navigate relationships in a different way with that wisdom of you can survive. You've survived all your worst days. Right. That's a meme I've seen on Instagram. This is why I'm a freaking quoting genius, because I love. No, I was kidding.
You study all the memes.
But I believe it's true. I think for me personally, like I know I've survived many, many worse days in far off years than I've had to recently, because like I've literally been broke. I've literally diluted milk for my child to have milk. Cereal or cereal milk for longer days until I got paid again. Like I've had really times when I'm like, this is horrible. And that's not torture, you know, you can go without milk, but it's way worse than like, oh, I have to go, you know, I ran out of gas and call for help or something. I don't know. I'm not coming up with a good thing.
No, I know what you're saying.
But I believe you do. You become more resilient. Yeah. You become more wise. Now you can definitely not become more wise, because you can, I think that you can stay in patterns that you recreate your suffering over and over and over again until you decide that, okay, I don't actually want to keep doing that.
I think that's a mentality too. I think I had a really bad mentality around adversity for a lot of years. And would carry it in a really unhealthy way, and you like take one thing and spin it into 10 other things, and then one thing that might not have been a great experience ends up becoming catastrophic to like 10 other things.
Sure.
I feel like I'm getting better at compartmentalizing, be like, cool, all right, this is what it is. We don't have to burn the entire house down. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? The kitchen might get cooked. We might roast the kitchen here, but we're not going to burn the entire house down. I feel like that quote unquote wisdom or whatever, it's never a pleasurable thing. You're never like, oh, look, you know, somebody stole from me today, or it's like, oh yeah, this happened or that happened or whatever else. But I definitely think there's an aspect of humility, maturity in handling shit. I mean, case in point, surgery, like my shoulder, right? Blow my shoulder out. I'm in the best shape of my life. I blow my shoulder out, rip my bicep tendon, and it's like that would have sent me off in a spiral where I eat like shit, I gain a bunch of weight, then it gets even worse. And it was like, yeah, I had a couple bad days where it was like, you know, I'm popping freaking Kush cubes and painkillers just so I can try and make it through a day. You know what I mean? Wash it down with a shot of whiskey.
This was an unsponsored mention.
Shout out to Kush cubes and painkillers. But you know, I was back on the horse.
Yeah.
Fast. I mean, I didn't gain a bunch of weight and get out of shape. And that might not be a big deal to some people, but like when you're operating at a really high level and everything comes to a stop, you really have to find it within yourself to look at it and say, okay, cool, where's the light here?
Absolutely.
And then go towards that light and take a little bit of a win and then a little bit of a win and a little bit of a win. And I think that's what, you know, this is some of this quote unquote adversity and struggle, if you will, has really made me see things better. I think even though we still war, you know, we're stronger than we've ever been. Our connection, I was just telling Jeff that same thing, like we're not going anywhere. We're not ending our marriage. It's not going to end, right? Like we're not moving that direction, having that thought process. Like there's days where we go to war and we don't want to see each other and we want to kick each other in the freaking face. But I think the more that we do life, the more that we do the hard shit, the more hard conversations that we have, more temper tantrums we fucking throw and get through, like the stronger we're getting, the deeper the connection is. It's the same thing in business. It's like you can't grow something fucking huge and not ever have an issue. You can't grow something big and not ever have somebody fuck you over or steal from you or lose a couple of bucks here or there. It's kind of like it's kind of like the thing that we always talk about, sharpening the sword. It requires an insane amount of friction. Like to literally physically sharpen a sword, you have to create radical friction against an opposing object to create the sharp steel. Sure. We want these sharp objects and we want these sharp swords, but yet we avoid the friction. And when the friction comes, it's like, oh, no, just a little bit. It's like, well, do you want the sharp sword or not?
Well, and I want to bring up, so like for us, obviously we have a different dynamic in our relationship, but we've both been through divorce, right? And two things have come up a lot in our space recently with two different dynamics. And I won't mention names, but we have a lot of it's like what we're talking about, perspective, right? And facing adversity and what do you do with that? And so one thing is like I went my son plays travel hockey, and a lot of the people on the team like can't quite figure out how we're so amicable, not just amicable, but we're friends with his dad. I mean, to the point where we're like, we're traveling together. He works for you. Like it's, but a lot of that is, it's like we made a choice to make lemonade out of lemons. You know, like you ask him, and this is what he tells them, is he's like, she gave me everything I ever wanted. She gave me a family, and Sean's her person. Like, and I support them, and I'm glad that I get to be a part of this with, and he has all this gratitude, and I have all this gratitude because he's trustworthy, he's kind, he's fair, he's honest, and it's but there was a divorce involved, right? And we have complex emotions, and we have another friend who great man. We've gotten to spend some time with him recently, and one of the things is that he was originally came into your life was that you helped change his perspective on a very, very, very painful divorce that he was going through, and he just could not find light. He could not find love in his heart, and he could not find I mean, there's a lot of ways he puts this, but he had a lot of resentment. And this friend of ours now is just, he's completely changed the way he sees it. And now he has this outpouring of love and he just pays all of this into you for helping him shift that, because it changed his life for the better and his children's life. And it's really incredible, because that we all have the power to have that, no matter what's happened. If you've been cheated on, if you've been stolen from, if you've been lied to, if you've been deceived or whatever, you still hold the power to have love in your heart. Like, you do, no matter what.
Right.
Like, you can forgive and you can love and you can choose to be free from that heaviness and face adversity with love. I mean, it sounds all like mushy, but you will continue to suffer until you don't.
I think until you appreciate it. Like, you have to, what you're saying is really quite profound, because I spent most of my life cursing adversity. I spent most of my life blaming other people and being mad at my quote unquote lot in life, and mad that I had to deal with this, and mad that I had to go through this, and I really had a chip on my shoulder about it. And I think, God in his infinite wisdom is like, I'm going to keep giving you these things until you're kind of brought to your knees in humility. You truly learn the lesson, then you say thank you for the lesson, because then you actually learn something from it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, people talk about failure. I don't believe in failure. The only way that I could even conceivably see failure, quote unquote, in the very practical way that we all talk about it, is if you have an experience and you don't learn something from it. Because if you have an experience, whether it's quote unquote good or bad, joyful or painful, and you learn something from it, that's an education. You're better, you're stronger, right? Whether that's in business, whether that's in love, whether that's in marriage, whether that's in sports, whether that's physical, like, it doesn't matter. It's kind of like, you have to be grateful for these quote unquote adversities, these trials, or else you're going to keep repeating them. You're going to keep living in this wallowing shit pile until you realize, oh, wait a second, I learned something by this person sharing this with me or doing this. I learned something by having these employees. I learned something through this friendship that didn't work out, or I learned something through this disagreement in my relationship, or I learned something in this surgery, you know what I'm saying, going through this and understanding my body better and healing better. And I literally learned how to like heal my body better by going through this adversity and through this situation.
When you have been in an unhealthy place. Another thing is I know a lot of people, and I used to be like this. I feel like I've come quite a ways, getting stuck on, the things that were outside of their control, like their relationship with their parents, right? How they grew up. That seems to be a big buzz thing right now, is like, inner child healing, which I totally believe in.
Right.
But seeing that everyone is on this, everyone's on their first day of this day, right? No one's ever lived this day before until they're in that day, and that's their first day. So you look at like the relationship with a lot of parents, and your mom and I had this conversation, and bless her heart, like, she still has a lot of pain around the guilt and relationship with your dad.
Right.
And I remember telling her, I said, he had to have the father he had in order to become the man that he is today, because that's the recipe that made Sean Whalen. Right. The recipe that made me is exactly what made me. If you deviate from, if you forget to put baking soda in your cake, it's not going to be the cake as if you did, or if you put too much. And really looking at, gosh, this recipe of my life, everything built this person, even from the trials of being little. Like, I mean, so many people blame their parents. They have all of this yuck. And it's like, it's not that you get to just like forgive and forget, but you get to honor the fact that your parents, maybe they carry their own generational traumas in. They didn't have the equipment. They didn't have Instagram memes to help persuade them to be better, or to think better, or to want more. And really just appreciating that, like letting that, like almost like burying the hatchet of like, they don't know what they don't know, but doesn't mean I need to be like okay with abuse or okay with things, but like learning that, maybe that's exactly the way the recipe was made for you to become a person that can do the work and be grateful in up against horribly hard things, and maybe you're the person that then gets to help another person, right? And I just told that to your mom, as I said, how is someone supposed to speak to people that are going through these things if he didn't have any experience with that pain or that hurt? And like, that's his gift.
The gift, your message, your message. One of my favorite quotes is by the late Thomas Monson he was one of the president of the Mormon Church. And he said, you are who you are today because of your choices and decisions yesterday. If you stop and really think about that, like take it one step deeper, and it's like, think about everything that's quote unquote happened to you, right? Think about everything you've quote unquote been through. Label it however you want. Like, I'm grateful for how I was raised. I'm grateful that my father raised me the way that he raised me. I'm grateful that I experienced what I experienced, because it literally has shaped the father that I am today. Because I remember, like, I have two choices. I can be mad at my dad for never doing guys' night. And I've talked about this on social media tons. Sure. I can be mad at my father because my dad never did guys' night. I asked my mom that, like, however long ago. I'm like, Mom, did I ever do guys' night with dad? Like, I don't ever remember, like, going out and getting pizza or going bowling or anything like that. She's like, no, it's just something, he just never did it, right? He never took me and my brother out and just did shit with us, right? And that's one of the things that as I became a father, I realized, like, I have two choices. I could be mad and angry at my dad, or be grateful and say, thank you for showing me what you showed me. And really, without like guile or bitterness, be like, dude, I'm so glad that I know that, because I know how that felt. Now I'm going to give my kids something different. Does that make my dad a bad man? Not at all. Not at all. Like, I learned something, and I think it's really hard for people to hear this sometimes, because it's like, oh, well, should I be grateful for the abuse? Should I be grateful for the neglect? Should I be grateful for these other things? And, you know, the real fucking simple truth is, yes, you should. Like, hear me on that. Like, that might be a really, really, really hard pill to swallow. That might take a ton of fucking humility. That might take like a giant freaking dump truck full of grace. But the truth of the matter is, you have two choices. I can be angry and resentful and bitter, or hold on to whatever type of grudge I want to something or someone in the past, or I can flip the script and be grateful for it. That might be like one of the most difficult things you ever do as a human being.
Right.
But what are your options? You only have two, and there's one of them which will send you on a course of health and wealth and prosperity, and there's one of them that will keep you in the shitter and in the fucking, like, just literally the depth of hell your entire life. It will keep you angry. It will keep you sick. It will keep you just full of shit. And I know this because I lived a portion of my life really angry at my father. And then all of a sudden I had this epiphany. I had this kind of awakening where I was like, holy shit. Like, my dad raised me the best way that he knew how. And then my ego comes in as, well, he should have. And a lot of you listening to this go, well, my mom should have known, or my dad should have known. I want you to think about this for 2 seconds. I've shared this a lot of times in the past with people, especially people that struggle with their parents.
Which is a lot of people. A
lot of people. Imagine for a second you took a 2-year-old and you sat a 2-year-old in front of a computer and said, take this apart and put it back together. A 2-year-old would have you could yell, scream, shame, blame, entice, like, you know, whatever you want. It simply doesn't know how to do it. And I came to a realization a long time ago with my dad that my grandpa, who I never met, you know, my dad's dad was a horrible father, quote unquote, was abusive to him. You know, my dad literally raised me with what he knew. He raised me with what he knew. His dad beat the shit out of him. His dad abused him. His dad took off when he was like 13 years old. Well, guess what? My dad brought the same freaking, you know, reality to the party. My dad took off when I was like 13, right? And raised me the same way, mental, emotional, like the whole fucking thing. And so here we are in this new life of mine going, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to be mad? Do I want to be angry? Do I want to perpetuate that same cycle, or do I want to do something different? And this is the real nuance of like adversity. This is the real nuance of pain and frustration and these words that we put into these experiences that we have, is I stepped back and I looked at it and I was like, holy shit, like my dad legitimately was like the 2-year-old in front of the computer. Here he was with his own son, me, not having any knowledge of love, of connection, of empathy, of guys' night, of connection with his son, because he never had it. Mm-hmm. And it's just like this wild thing where I look at it, it's like, well, you should have and you could have. And I promise you, friends, if you're listening to this and you have, if you can understand where I'm at, and maybe you're in the same spot, that you really only have 2 choices. You can look at how you were raised. You can look at the quote unquote adversity and say, fuck it, fuck him. He should have known. I'm going to carry a chip on my shoulder till the day I die and blame that person for my lot in life. Or you say, thank you for showing me what you showed me.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it different. Thank you for raising me the way that you raised me. Thank you for showing me what you showed me. Thank you for all of it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to choose to do it different. And I promise you, like, I know that I'm the dad that I am today because of this. I know that I'm a great dad. I know that I'm a good dad. I have my own fears and reservations. Am I doing it right? But I look at my 5 kids, and my 5 kids are fucking savages. Literally, right as we're sitting here, William texted me. He's like, I got called up to varsity. He's wrestling varsity this weekend. So we're going to have to maybe find a plane to take us home, because I don't know that I can miss like his varsity wrestling matches. But like, that's my point, is my 5 kids are savages. Mm-hmm. I've chosen to raise them different. I've taken the quote unquote adversity that was given to me, cursed me, whatever you want to say, it was just put in front of me, right? Whether it's this business, whether it's relationship, and I've chosen to be grateful for it. Mm-hmm. And it came at a lot of work and a lot of testing and a lot of interesting emotions, but I know for a fact, I know for a fact that I am the father that I am today because I chose to find gratitude in how my father raised me.
Sure. Well, and I want to speak to one of our kids is, so when I had my oldest son, when I was almost 19, I was 1 month away from being 19. I was a baby, but I knew with all my heart, he was supposed to be in life with me. Like, you know, that was non-negotiable. He was mine. Well, the other half of what made this baby was not necessarily like the best situation, right? And so my son, his biological dad phased out of his life. We were married, got divorced, and we were just on a trip with Tyne and his girlfriend, and we started talking about this when we were in Vegas, asking, and he was asking me all these questions, because once in a while it gets brought up, right? And so Tyne was adopted when he was 4 by my best friend. Such an amazing human. Love him to the death. He's still it's his dad. This is his father, right? So my best friend at the time that adopted Tyne, he grew up without a dad. His dad got killed in a car wreck when he was just a baby, little guy. And you look at this dynamic, you look at this ripple effect of people that were affected by his biological dad not being in his life, right? It only blessed so many people. Like the ripples are massive because like Jake, his dad, his whole family, like his wife, like they love this baby that I brought in this world in this very like wild way, right? And it's without a doubt, it was intentional, purposeful, and planned. Like it was supposed to be like this, right? And so fast forward, one of the things that I worried about was, and I think some moms on here can probably relate to that. This fear is, well, what's going to happen when he gets older? Is he going to want to go meet this guy? Is the guy's going to come out of the woodworks? It's like, you get all this reservation with your mama bear energy, like, you know, and so when Tyne turned 18, like this happened. And he had such a good grounded relationship with his life and his family and the people in it that he was like, you know, I have no interest. Like I have my dad, I have my family, I have no interest. And he has such this like grounded, like he understands, even though he probably doesn't totally understand, but he understands because I've always raised him to be grateful for what is. Right. And I've never brought that. I've never brought yucky energy. Right. I've never brought negative energy. I've never talked down on the fact that he was missing or that he was a bad person or this or that. It's like, no, because he gave me that child that only blessed so many people that would have never had the opportunity to have that blessing. And who knows, like we talk about, like the ripples keep going. You never know where, now this son of mine's, he's in college, and you never know what that's going to pay forward future in his life, like, and how that will serve someone else or whatever. And it's, so even if something feels so painful, or because I hear this from so many moms, especially like at Lions Den Live, like, I'm a single mom, I don't know. It's like, girl, like, just keep showing up the best version of yourself, because it's all, I believe wholeheartedly, it's all supposed to be this way. Because when we don't need to understand. God gives us a pinhole. Right. If he gave us the whole story, it would be like,
life would be pretty freaking boring.
The adventure is in, like, we only can see this much of the story. God's like, I've got this. Like, because, you look at, like, there's writers that have written some of the most epic books or music because of some suffering or pain or adversity. And it's like, these beautiful things couldn't exist unless that had to rupture and grow something better. And it's like, God, I know that pain in the midst of it, it's like, you just don't understand it. And it's like, well,
here it is.
Like, we go through labor pains, and yet we have more children, right? Like, that's always a funny one to me. I'm like, we must just forget. I'll do that again.
It's funny because Ed Milet talks about being the one. That's what comes to my mind when I think about this. Is it's like, my grandfather, who I never met, was this guy, and this is how he raised his kid, and then my father, was this guy, and this is how he raised his kid. It's like, I chose to be the one. I chose to be the one to do it different, right?
Sure.
And so who knows what 200 years looks like, and they look back and see and look at the family tree and who knows what. But, like, at the end of the day, I chose to be the one that does it different. And, like, I can tell you with 1,000% certainty that, like, I don't carry any frustration, anger, guile, bitterness towards my dad. It's really an interesting thing, because, like, you would think you would, like, there would be something there, but I have so much gratitude for that man, like, for my father, like doing what he did, raising me how he did, like, because it's the polarity. I have so much amazing clarity of the type of father that I want to be and that I am. And I don't think I would have that had I not had something totally different. Right. And to me, how do you not be grateful for that? Like, how do you not be grateful for that? Like, I have to be grateful for that. It's like, it's so fucking beautiful to be able to have that experience. And so if you're sitting here going, well, you don't know my story. No, I don't know your story. And I don't need to know your story. It doesn't matter. Like, you have a story, I have a story, he has a story, she has a story. But the truth of the matter is, right here, right now, I'm existing, you're existing, I'm living, you're living, we're building. And it's kind of like all of the quote unquote adversity that comes our way. And I truly believe this. It is here to build us. It's here to shape us. It's here to invite us to a new level of empathy and compassion and grace. You're one of your big words. I love grace. And I feel like the more we walk into that space and really have gratitude for it, that's what I said earlier. I feel like this year I've cussed it less. I've cursed it less than before, which to me is a win. I'm chalking it up in the win category. Like, and there might be a year where I've eventually go, I never cussed it. I just was like smiling and kind of neurotic and made it through it, and here we are, right? But imagine that for 2 seconds. Imagine taking everything that quote unquote happened to you this year, or the last 2 years, the last 5 years, the last 50 years. And looking at it and just flipping the script and being like, man, that's fucking rad. I'm super grateful that these things are part of my existence and part of my life. And going back to what you said earlier, like, we've literally reached millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of people based off of the quote unquote mess. I've shared my story literally, and it has been shared by hundreds of millions of people. Literally, like almost a billion, over a billion views of videos. Like, hundreds of millions of eyeballs reached and touched through stories of the past and the quote unquote mess. And you stop and think about that for 2 seconds. Like, how can you not be grateful for that?
Sure. And even if you look back, like, you look at the generations, we are in a really beautiful place in time, because so many of our ancestors lived in a time of pure survival. Like, literally, How am I going to be safe? Eat. So very, very primal. And you get to where now it's like, you know, if you talk to the hippie people, which I am, you know, you're leaving this 3D, this third dimension, and you're going to higher 4 or 5D, right? Which is more of just like elevated possibility, elevated thinking, and you're less in this like physical matter matrix, right? And you start to think, oh, you know, because we are really in a less, we're not in survival. Now, I believe there's a flip side that's negative, that's like, we're very cushy right now. Right. Like, we don't have to hunt for our food. There's a lot of things that, you know, we're very comfortable. But the blessing to that is that we don't live in a constant state of survival. So we have the ability to spend more of our bandwidth and our energy and our time looking at introspectively, looking at emotional processing, looking at inner child healing, looking at generational patterns of trauma, and reading books and listening to podcasts, you know, things like that. Like, we have the time and resources to do this when, like, your mom, bless her heart, she's still the only one that's upset about your dad. Right. And she's just an old school person, but I believe in her. I believe in, she's probably listening because she loves our show, but I love her, you know, and it's so kind of having grace too for past generations and ancestors of doing things. Yeah. They just didn't have what we have. And we were raised in a really cool time, you know, like the internet gave us a lot more reach to a lot more of the world. And I think that we can be grateful for even that.
One last thing I want to share on this is something that I have appreciated about the process, is understanding that, like, I owe it to me to be happy. Mm-hmm. And again, this, maybe your hippie is rubbing off on me and I'm like becoming more hippie or whatever. I don't know. But like,
you are wearing a fancy mala necklace.
I made this one.
I know.
It makes sense to me, and maybe it makes sense to you, you know, listening, like understanding that the like appreciation for it, and is that what was I saying before you talked about my mala? I slowly lost my train of thought. I'd say one final thing on this, the appreciation. I just totally lost my train of thought.
I don't know.
What was I saying?
I don't know.
You interrupted with the mala. Fuck it. I thought about the mala.
That my hippy dippy is rubbing off on you.
I don't even remember shit. My brain's fucking going away.
Rich, you rewind this. Where were we at?
You can't rewind my brain though. I don't remember. The hippy dippy, whatever. I know that, like, when you can get to a place of really appreciating and understanding. Oh, you owe it to yourself. Mm-hmm. You owe it to yourself to be happy. That might sound really hippy dippy to some of you, but I want you to think about this for a second. If somebody screwed you, whatever that looks like, right? Insert whatever descriptive word you want, like, and you stay angry at that person, like you give that person all of your power. You know what I'm saying? Like, I realized a long time ago, like, when I'm angry at somebody, like, I'm giving them literally my energy. I'm giving them my power. Like, you owe yourself peace. You owe yourself happiness, right? So maybe you weren't raised in the perfect environment, or maybe you had abusive parents, or maybe you had some shit, maybe you had whatever. But the longer you hang on to that, like, the longer you're going to be in a cage, the longer you will be a slave to someone else's doing. And the true freedom, like being a real quote unquote free man, is being able to dictate your own reality, your own health, your own wealth, your own happiness. And that's something that I'm really, really, really passionate about. For me personally, like we talk about this all the time, is true mental freedom, like real freedom, knowing that, like, I owe it to myself to be free. I owe it to myself to have calm and peace in my mind, and to not have this person and this experience and this thing occupying my brain, where it's just like consuming me all day long. Because anybody listening to this that's been there knows it'll literally kill you. I mean, the stress will kill you. The anger will kill you. There's a lot of people that die really, really, really angry and bitter, and they don't need to. You know what I'm saying? So take it for what it's worth. You know, you owe it to yourself to truly forgive and to move forward with your life and to be happy. Like, really, really be happy. And I think one of the ultimate signs of quote unquote rebellion, the ultimate signs of freedom, is you can look back on your past and you can look at all of it and have great appreciation for it. Look at all of the quote-unquote adversity that has come into your life, all of the things that tried to kill you, tried to break you, trying to get you to quit, and be grateful for all of it.
Even the things
That's
that
freedom.
you did that you have shame around, like forgive
all of
yourself and realizing that, like, gosh, you too are just learning.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people too, they live in this shaming of themselves. So then they won't let themselves find joy in this day because they'll keep bringing the shame forward and forward and forward. And like, free yourself from that prison.
Yeah.
Like, love yourself and say, you know what? Like, I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do better today. I'm going to be a better person today, and let that go, you know, because you can't change the past. Now like you can retrain yourself on the perspective of the past, but you can't change it.
Right.
So you might as well make peace with it, like you said, right? And wear your ruby red slippers, because what do they say in Wizard of Oz? Like, the power was always yours.
I don't know.
She just clicks her heels. Something like that.
I thought she clicked her heels and said, "There's no place like home."
I know, but she always had the ability. I don't remember how. I think it was Glinda, the Good Witch. She said something.
I don't remember.
I haven't watched it in a minute.
I'm just looking at your plant over here that's like half dead. That's really...
That came with the office when we bought it.
Oh.
I rehab plants.
Oh.
This is literally what I do.
Got
I
it.
bring them back to life, and we're working on that guy.
That one's getting there.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Anything else, babe, you want to share on this?
No, I'm glad we're back. We
It was
haven't.
kind of a slow start here, but we got into it.
They're always
good.
like that.
I know.
You've got to like hang on, because at the halfway point it just goes.
Yeah, that's when it gets really
But
good.
they usually. I mean, our listeners know it's like.
Back in the studio, we've got some really fun episodes coming up with some cool couples that I'm really pumped about.
I'm really, really, really liking
What?
bringing on other people.
I know, it's fun. It's really fun.
I mean, you and I are good at just chit-chatting all day long together.
We got some really fun people coming. So stay tuned. Thanks for listening. Please like, comment, share this episode, and make sure you tag somebody in it that needs to hear this. Somebody that has been through some shit, that's dealt with some adversity, some people that have maybe had a rough little stretch.
Their little hearts.
And they need a little bit of freaking motivation and inspiration. Make sure you share this with them. And until next time, ciao.
Ciao, love you, bye.